All right, what is up, everybody? I'm late to the party, but it's time for me to, I guess, add my 2 cents. That may be an expectation now, given that I've been doing video essays talking about the state of education. And I think this is well within my realm to actually give some insight or perspective. So without further ado, let's jump right into it. A brief heads up that I'll be playing clips because I don't want to risk. I'm already probably risking this video getting flagged because of the fact that I'm playing this, and this is from a news source. But we'll just take that risk and step out there and just see what happens. So just want to give you guys that heads up.
On Thursday, August 15th, during lunch, I heard our behavioral teacher call on the radio to administrators for assistance. When I arrived, the teacher and students were outside the classroom. One student was holding his head, having been assaulted by the student remaining in the classroom. I entered where the student was still irate and found the room ransacked with overturned furniture. I knew I had to be as calm as possible, and I spoke lowly and slowly so as not to enrage him any further. He picked up a chair and acted as if he would throw it. He finally did throw it at me, but I caught it midair. He picked up another chair to throw at me when another assistant principal entered the room. I used the first chair to block the second. He picked up a third and threw it at the other assistant principal, and I used that initial chair to block the one that he threw at her. After blocking the chair thrown at the other assistant principal, he threw a wooden hanger at me, but I couldn't stop it fast enough. The hanger hit me in my right eye and knocked it out of the socket. I grabbed my face while blood was pouring out of my head and stumbled out of the classroom door.
Okay, so let's pause it right there and let's speak on the first 4 bullet points in regards to this woman's occurrence. To Candra Rogers protecting her staff while risking her eye at the sake of this student's anger. So in the video, she'll say that I still believe in God for a miracle, for restoration over my sight. I may have actually paused it just right before she was about to say that, but I have to play this in spurts to make sure I can get my words out and this video stays up. But one of the things I want to speak on is that on this channel, I talk a lot about faith. I talk a lot about my belief in Jesus Christ sustaining me. Now, people may, leave off at the minute that, oh, here he goes talking about that God stuff again. Everybody's beliefs are different. Everybody may come from a very humanistic standpoint, but when you're in this profession, that's what people don't understand. When you're dealing with these behaviors and you're dealing with all these crazy, you're dealing with so many of these crazy approaches coming from the students, and the students are so random. They're so unhinged, a lot of them, that it takes a higher power. My belief in that, it takes a higher power. Now, you may be on the other side thinking that, all it takes is, the studies show and the psychologists believe, and, you have to be smart about these things and all that's fine and dandy. But for many of us, it takes almost an act of God to be able to go over your natural state, to overlook the many faults that these students, whether in elementary school, middle school, or high school, bring into the schools, this dark energy they carry from wherever situation they come from, especially if you're working in a Title I situation. It takes an act of God, some sort of supernatural, some sort of cosmic energy. All right. For me, that's Jesus Christ. I'd say that over and over again, to be able to continue to work day in and day out with everything that we're facing, to risking bodily harm, to risking mental and verbal abuse. It takes a lot to be able to do that. The reason that I'm still in education right now is because I have a calling to be here, to be a teacher. And I'm well prepared and well aware of that I could be at risk of some sort of attack or whatever the case may be. And I'm always prayerful about the good Lord's protection. But those of you who are Bible believing know that when you're living this life for the Lord, that you're not promised to be protected from every little thing. You're promised I believe the Lord provides a hedge of protection, but when it calls for you to go through some challenging times at the school, you have to better believe that trial that you're going through is only going to bring you out a lot stronger. It's going to strengthen your character. It's going to be able to make you more malleable in order for the good Lord to use you in the hopes that you can be a light to somebody else. And that's the key thing here. Okay. I had a video viewer. He knows who he is. I don't know if he wants me to, mention his name. So leave a comment down below, sir, as you know. But you've given me actually the perspective, because I wanted to go in and talking about the students. But you know what? You're absolutely right. This lady did take the high road. When she says, I still believe in God for a miracle or for restoration over my eyesight, she's coming in and she's actually talking about, she's saying that she'll go into the political side here in a second. I'll actually give my 2 cents on there, hopefully not getting too political, but she goes into talking about, how funding needs to be allocated to, for teachers, and we shouldn't be put in these situations in the first place. She focuses more on the centrifugal problem, the over encompassing problem that even led to something like this happening in the first place. But her being an administrator, this was a very selfless act, because she wanted to move any students that could have been in harm's way out of harm's way, any teachers, and it's just the administrators, because really I think legally no teacher should even be involved with trying to even stop this student. Otherwise, that teacher would have been on the 9 o'clock news rather than, any emphasis being on the student, and that student would have been kicked out. And it's because of these legalities and these laws that protect the students' confidentiality reasons. If the information was released about who this kid was in a way that the adults right now, the way that the online community is feeling towards how these kids are acting in schools, I'm pretty sure somebody would have went to this kid's house and tried to do something to him and his family, because people are just tired of seeing students act unhinged, act like they don't have any sense, behaving in ways that's violent, being unrestrained. People online are getting so sick and tired of that. And they're also tired of the parents that's actually encouraging it. So you have this tension that's existing so well right now that you can almost cut it with a butter knife. That's how the tension is so thick, but it's so easy to cut at this moment in time that you can almost have a civil war within the education system, adults versus students. That's where we're at this moment in time. So it's good that she is deciding to go a different route and not place so much emphasis on the student, because even she believes that the student needs the services, needs the care, the concern appropriately. But then that leads us to talking about the insane protective barrier of SPED. I've seen and even heard, from other staff members I've worked with over the years and some other people that, you would have in the trenches SPED staff working with these kids who are unhinged. They have these extreme behavior issues and they get attacked. But then you have the superiors of these SPED staff, not reprimanding a student, but reprimanding the actual SPED staff. And then also with the teachers as well, before you can do anything, before you can give them any consequence. Well, did you follow the documentation? Did you follow the points before you did anything? It's not the kid's fault. It's your fault. You did not follow the documentation. You didn't do what you were supposed to do. You should know better. You're the adult. That's the attitude when it comes to SPED. That's the insane protective barrier. And you have kids rubbing their hands and just going, they see this. They see this conflict between one position, the lower position, and the higher position. And they just know that they have a free pass to party on somebody's face if they wanted to. Case in point, what we see in this situation. This sounds like this was a SPED situation. And from what I've heard, this lady here, once she was hit, the kid actually calmed down and went in the corner and curled up once he noticed that he did, hit her. And that's the craziest thing. So that tells you that he's not totally insane. He was able to control his anger at some point if that did happen. All right. So the insane protective barrier of SPED allows a person to feel, to feel invincible, allows the students to feel invincible, like they always got this protection. And then, once they're out of the schools, caring, they're out in the world as an adult, 18 years old, gone, they're able, they go off actually attacking real people in real life, and they end up going to prison. And I mean, right now we're still talking about Texas, but I don't, man, when we look at somewhere like California, and I know I have California written on here, but you look at the soft on crime approach, the whole bail situation, the $900, if it's a theft under $900 or whatever the case may be, and people being released 24 hours later because of the low intensity of the crime and cops just throwing their hands up in the air, maybe we're feeding into a line. Eventually, Texas is probably going to fall into line with this as well. But we're feeding into a line of where not only is this they feel invincible in school, but soon they'll be released out in the world and they'll still have this invincibility if these policies and laws continuing to worsen over time, allowing people to feel like they can do crimes and get away with them, because that's what school kind of prepares students to feel like, especially in this situation. I can do anything I want and I'll be protected for this terrible behavior for reasons. In this case, in schools, it's documentation. It's following some IEP or something else within legal, whatever. All right. I've been a teacher for all this time, and I keep up with SPED for as much as I need to keep up with SPED at this moment. And it's just crazy. So you'll have the transition from school with this invincibility, and I can only imagine what it's like when you are in somewhere like California where it's soft on crime right now, and that feeling of invincibility is just going to continue to progress. Right now, it hasn't hit Texas like that because, to be honest, probably because of the Republican values that is still held near and dear here in this state, and probably with the hardcore resistance about gun control. But those are things I'm not going to get into right now in this video. It's neither here nor there. So also the huge challenge of being a teacher and a caretaker. This is what's pushing teachers out. This is also unspoken of, but a lot of teachers are leaving because they're not able to just teach. They have to play mom. They have to play dad. They have to provide these services. They have to be the full 100% caretaker of the child, almost in a very, it's a very micro level of the government taking care of the people. That's kind of, because as a teacher or public servant, that's what you are, government servant, and it's almost like it's quietly unspoken, but the government has placed the onus on the teacher to play mom and dad in the school system, and almost taking that power away from the parent. And some parents are gladly able to hand that power over. Here, you take care of my child. I got stuff to do. I got, I got partying to do. I got a club to go hit up. Mama got to do her. Okay. Daddy got some women to hit up right now. And there are parents that are gladly unyielding, more than happy to fork over their children to another institution because of their own selfishness. So the challenge of having to be a teacher, of wearing all these hats, not just being a teacher and not just teaching content, but caring for a child, providing, other provisions. I can't tell you how, like, in the past couple of years when I was at my old school district, how much food I actually bought for some students, because of the challenge of hunger blocking me teaching and just listening and being a listening ear. A lot of times I wasn't even teaching. I was just being big brother or being the uncle that they never had. And in some cases, some kids did see me as a father figure because those things was hard to come by. I still tried to fulfill my teaching duties, but you spend so much time just trying to actually alleviate this behavior as best as you possibly can. And for me, it's from a biblical standpoint, overlooking the faults and seeing the needs of the child of that person. To me, it takes a higher power to be able to do these things, to be able to act in love. Love is patience, love is kind, love vaunteth not itself. Okay, it doesn't seek glory, it doesn't seek pride. I do this with 100% expectation of receiving nothing. However, the good Lord decides to bless me, I'm happy with that, but I'm just happy to be a servant. And the two greatest commandments are love the Lord thy God with all thy heart and soul, and love the people as yourself. Those are the two greatest commandments. So when you serve people to the highest extent, you're serving the Lord to the highest extent. And that's what counts. I'm not doing this for glory or anything like that. I have a calling to be a teacher, which is why I'm still here in the classroom. So, but if you're coming from a very humanistic standpoint, I think you're going to run out of steam very quickly. You may last a few years, you may even last 5 years. But over time, though, you're going to run out of steam. And I'm not saying that. I'm probably making it seem like if you're a Christian, you're invincible and you'll be able to, do this for as long as you possibly can, for eons if you have to, or whatever the case may be. And I mean, Christians are still human at the end of the day, and you have to have a strong connection. You have to have a strong connection with the Lord to be able to be guided, to be able to be directed in a way to where you can properly work with children, work with other adults, to be able to be selfless. All these things, that's where real strength lies. Giving into your impulses, giving into your emotional weaknesses, that's where you're going to falter as a teacher. If you don't have that foundation, then you're going to fail. You're going to fail. Now, granted, somebody may argue and come on here and say, I don't believe in God. I've been a teacher for 30, 40 years right now, and you may be borrowing some of those characteristics in terms of the expecting 100%, nothing and just serving. That's still a godly characteristic. You may call it humanistic, but it's still a godly trait. And it takes a supernatural effort a cosmic effort in order to be able to serve to that high level. To still be able to, when a kid curses you out, and still be able to go in a classroom and just say good morning with a smile on your face. For other people who are looking, because we live in a me society, they may be looking at you like, you don't have to take that. That's abuse. You don't have to sit up there and take that. No, man, go do you. Go get another job. Go do something that's going to make you happy. But for us who have a calling in terms of doing this, we know that the kid could curse us out, but we're enduring. Love endureth all things. So I've endured a lot in terms of my years of teaching, which is why I've made it to my 10th year. But I've built some great relationships. I've been allowed to build some great relationships by the grace of God, and to still be able to do what I'm doing right now. All right. So, those are the 4 bullet points I really wanted to touch on when it comes to talking about Candra Rogers in this situation with, I'm using this video, it says reaction, but I'm really using this as an excuse to talk about certain things, because people need to know that when you're in education right now, you need to go in expecting that you're going to deal with the worst, that you're going to deal with repetitive violence, that you're going to deal with abuse. And what are you going to use in order to survive this, to endure all that? Is teaching a calling for you? Is this just a immature career change? I've been a baker for years. I thought I'd get a classroom, a trial, whatever the case may be. Yada, yada, yada. I mean, what do you have to keep you sustained when doing this? What do you have? That's the only question I could really ask you. You may not believe what I believe. Your God, my God may not be your God, but what do you have at the end of the day? You have to answer that question for yourself. Let's get into the last part when she talks about Abbott and his dealings involving this whole situation in education, period.
Lastly, Governor Greg Abbott holds some accountability in the safety of our students and our staff. For years, our schools have suffered unfunded mandates, which have included pay raises. Our basic allotment, which funds our day-to-day expenses, have not increased since 2019, even though we have had rising costs on absolutely everything, including new unfunded mandates. This is 2024. I'd like to quote a friend who gave me permission to use their words. Quote, "If our students don't have what they need to be successful in Texas, this is not simply problematic. I hold that it is immoral. Texas has the 9th largest economy in the world, not the country, the world. Texas has over a $32 billion budget surplus. Yet we spend the 8th least in terms of allotment per student in the U.S. Regardless of what you believe This says about our priorities as a state. This is a choice, and choices have consequences.
Okay, so she's absolutely right. Greg Abbott does hold some responsibility. Okay, not all the responsibility, because also too, to her point, choices have consequences. Now, we live in a time to where people want to outsource their choices. They want to be able to do things and not be held accountable for it. They want to be able to, blame some third party reasoning in terms of why they did what they did. And we see a lot of that in the school systems. We see a lot of people, students and parents, wanting to do certain crimes and then blame, well, I hit this kid because of mental health, or I cursed that MF out because, I'm poor and in poverty. People want to act like that. And in society right now, in our very quote unquote progressive time that we're living in, they want to allow people to be able to have these scapegoats. And, cosmically, you're going to be held accountable. You're going to be held accountable. Now, going back to why do I bring all that up, even though I just mentioned Greg Abbott holding some accountability, because him being a governor, there are some things in terms with the funds he could be, using it towards doing more for education right now at this moment in time. I know he has. There's been these big talks about implementing school choice into the Texas education system, which I've spoken to several people, and that does not sound like a good idea at all. Does not sound like a good idea. Actually, I've been kind of thinking about, y'all let me know if y'all ever want me to do a research video where Texas is red, but its education feels blue. That's feels blue like California. Like the way Gavin Newsom is running Cali right now, that's how education feels at this moment in time within the state of Texas. And if that's something that you're interested in, leave a comment saying like you should definitely do your research and get that video on there. All right, do that. Texas is red, but its education system feels blue. We'll see what happens when if I get enough votes. We'll see if I should move forward with that. But Abbott versus Beto. Why do I have this bullet point? Because this ties into what I'm talking about with her. Because yes, while Abbott should hold some accountability, I have a theory. Okay. Don't right now, don't hold me to this at all. This is just a theory that I just been kind of just connected some dots on. But right now, the certain cities in Texas are hugely Democratic, or hugely left leaning. I went to Dallas, and I think Dallas is very Democratic. And when you look at Dallas is some sort of decline. Dallas used to be super clean. Used to go there in 2010 and everything. When I was first dating and everything, guys, I used to have dates in Dallas. I used to go, man, this is so clean out here. It's so gorgeous. Now I go to Dallas and I just felt like it's in this decline, almost looking like Los Angeles Skid Row. I went downtown and it looks terrible. And from what I'm seeing right now, when the entire state is moving towards, it seems that Democratic policies at this moment in time tend to be so extreme left wing, so on the far left side, the far progressive side, where it's so focused on all these silly ideologies that the city itself becomes in this economic and societal decline. But on the flip side, though, from when I talk to teachers who come from these blue states, they seem to be treated extremely well. And I guess because you got teacher unions and all these other things, and then the protection of the education is great, but the economy is trash. The societal operation is terrible. So it's like, it's almost as if, okay, well, the education is pumping out maybe some well-adjusted people, but those people are very indoctrinated and carrying these same stupid principles and beliefs and ideologies about the way that society should go. Like, I mean, we were talking about more emphasis on the multicolored community and certain other things, that have nothing to do with good support. And almost, from what I've seen, almost very much so communistic, Marxist in a way. I mean, moving into very, I don't even want to get too deep into that. But the point that I'm trying to make is that in trying to raise the educational caliber, when you have funding focus in that, it seems like there's a compromise to where the societal like outcome is in full decay. And that's terrible. I think there's more people that's willing to sacrifice the nature of Texas education to make sure that the state never ever becomes and looks like what California has become, especially under Gavin Newsom's rule. And the reason I have Beto on here is because if he would have won and beat out Abbott for the sake of restoring and rescuing Texas education, I think the rest of Texas would have been a complete dumpster fire, would have been a complete S show. I'm trying to prevent myself from using profanity, but it would have became just a terrible place in full decline. We would have been the southern version of what we see in California. We see cities like Oakland in full decline, Los Angeles. We see all these policies that Newsom is actually incorporating and implementing. The restraining parents from having certain rights with their children and having the kids being, hidden. If the kids want to make certain decisions that they're not adult enough to make yet at all, the schools will protect them. That's what we see, and that's what's going on in California at this moment in time. And that, I think that would have been the same case had Beto been in office. I think Beto would have been a super progressive, super left-wing extremist, and he would have actually had he would have actually carried out and just been another version of Newsom just in the state of Texas. Now, I made a video that I never released before, and I have a theory that Texas eventually is going to become purple. And if we get enough people leaving, because I'm going to be honest, people don't leave unless people change their belief systems, their core beliefs foundationally. They're not, people are leaving their areas because the economy has been dumped on, but they're not leaving their political ideologies, their belief systems. Those are staying with them. People don't really remove their belief systems unless there's some sort of like big transpiring thing that happens in their lives. And other people aren't going to really like change that. I've come across people who come to Texas who are Republican from California. And they was like, I'm gonna vote Republican because I don't have any power right now in California to make those changes because it's so dominated by these extreme ideologies. I've seen those. I met those people in real life. But on the flip side, I've also met people who have very much so maintained I got these reproductive freedoms. I need to hold on to that. I'm going to turn Texas blue no matter what. Texas should look like California. I've ran into those same types of people as well. So at what cost? It's a small. So the way that I see most Texas voters who are hardcore Republican or maybe even conservative, for the education system to be trashed, it's almost a small price to pay to make sure that Texas never ever looks like California. Because if we pay that cost to improve the education system, and let's say we incorporate teacher unions or whatever the case may be, then I think that's going to come at a compromise in terms of degrading the economical infrastructure of Texas. You may ask me, well, how does that work? Why can't both things be done? Why can't education be rescued and the economy maintain its integrity? Why can't both those things be true at the same time? Because historically, we've seen that it's always one or the other. It's always one or the other, I had a friend that worked at the Illinois. Illinois is blue, Democratic, whatever. And I had a friend that actually worked in the education system in Illinois, and they treat their teachers. It seems like they have a good plan for their teachers. Like, they come here to Texas and their minds are blown. Like, what is going on? This system is trash. Like, what's going on here? And they leave a very strong education system in Illinois. And if anybody that's from Illinois is watching this, you can comment and, see if you agree with me or not. But the friend I actually had, was getting paid well when they was a teacher in Illinois. They had certain benefits, certain stipends that they earned. The pay was relatively good. They treated their teachers extremely well. But then they come to Texas, and their minds are just shot in terms of why is Texas school systems like this. And that's why I was like, that's what made me get the thoughts of, man, Texas is super red, but its education feels like what the state of California is looking like right now. So that's my theory, is that, you know what, if we couldn't have somebody like Beto in, because even if Beto was to come in, and because you look on Facebook comments, people are like, we need to get Abbott out of here. He's destroying education. Look, education is a small price to pay. If you would have had Beto come in and he would have saved and restored education, the rest of Texas, I think, would have been like super trash. I just think he would have just been another Gavin Newsom. That's just my theory and my thought and everything else. He would have just been another Gavin Newsom. And that's what I'm pretty sure that there's other voters that felt that way in terms of the education is going to be a small price. Education is going to have to just be trash right now, because we can't afford our state to look like what these left-leaning states are looking like right now. So yes, I mean, I get her. She's, wanting to hold Abbott accountable, but those are my 2 cents in terms of why the funds are actually being allocated more to make sure that we're maintaining this overall super economy here in Texas at the cost of our education system. And again, I mean, you could, if we got so much money like that and we're number 9 in the world, and yes, those funds, those 2 things could be true at once, but it's not happening. It's not happening. So to all those people who were in, the comments at the time when they had the government race and Beto was going against Abbott, it's a fat chance. Dream on. It wasn't going to happen. All right. Those who are like, we need to get Abbott out of here because of our education. It's a small price to pay at this moment in time. And I'm surprised nobody's ever said that, but that's been what I've looked at in terms of thinking of how this was actually going to end up had Beto won and wanting to restore, education to its rightful glory, or to save it, or whatever his plans are and what he was going to do. So yeah, that's my 2 cents on that. That's my reaction. I know this is a 30-minute video, my longest video I've had in a long time, but lots to speak on. I can't play the full video all together. Hopefully this won't get flagged just because I'm playing clips by the news source. But my book, the teacher show, Trouble in Paradise, is out now, available on all platforms, Amazon included. I'm going to be doing an Audible version here shortly, so subscribe to the Teacher Show to stay up to date for that, and join the mailing list, the Teacher Show, and get updates, get content that, well, I have to try to be consistent. I'm going to be very honest, but log into the Teacher Show for updates and other things as you're continuing to just enjoy this channel. But I hope this has been insightful. Leave a comment, and I'll talk to you guys soon.